Hello to the world and to the kingdom citizens. I greet you in the precious holy name of Yeshua Messiah, Yeshua HaMashiach, who said in his word, John 8:32, "And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." Hi, I'm Dr. John Curry, Ambassador Pan-African, and welcome to the Embassy of the Kingdom of Heaven on Earth. If you want to follow this podcast, please subscribe to JC Global Embassy TV 1. Ring the bell and hit the thumbs up button. Today I have a message for you, for those that believe that blacks were basically inhuman, and the Supreme Court has already signed a document pertaining to the 3/5 rule. Article 1, Section 2 declared that black people are considered to be non-human, or if we are, we're 3/5 human. Well, I just want to know, how can 3/5 people that are classified as the beasts of the field, the Moorish influence on Europe and many, many other nations, how can we be that way and we're teaching them how to live? Let's take a look at this clip, and I trust that you can benefit from it.
Sources that you, the listeners, provide us. It's like a shortcut to being well informed without, all the overload.
Right. And for those of you watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that little notification bell so you don't miss out on future deep dives just like this one.
I love that little bell.
Me too. It's so cute.
So today we are diving into the history of the Moors and their influence on Europe.
Ooh.
Our source is an article from the African History website.
Okay.
It's titled, "The Moors Were the Black Kings and Queens Who Ruled Europe for Over 700 Years."
That title definitely grabs your attention. It suggests a narrative that many of us might not be familiar with.
It really does. So let's start with the basics. Who exactly were the Moors?
Well, if we turn to the Oxford English Dictionary, it describes Moors as black and swarthy, a term often used to describe people of African descent.
Okay,
But it's important to note that the Moors weren't a monolithic group.
that's a good point. So more than just a geographical or cultural label, the term Moor seems to have been connected to a physical description, at least in some contexts.
Yes, and this wasn't just a one-off definition. We see it reflected in the writings of the time. Even Shakespeare and Christopher Marlowe used Moor interchangeably with African.
Wow, so this understanding of Moors as black was pretty common back then.
It seems so. Historian Chancellor Williams even drew a direct comparison,
Yeah.
stating that the first Moors were black Africans, much as the first Egyptians.
Okay, so we're starting to see a potential connection to Africa. What other evidence supports this idea?
Well, there's a fascinating description from an Arab chronicler who referred to the Moorish Emperor Yusuf bin Tafin as a dark man with woolly hair. It really paints a vivid picture, doesn't it?
It does. It's not just a dry historical account. You
Right.
can almost visualize him.
Right.
And it's not just textual descriptions either, right?
Yeah.
There's visual evidence as well.
Right. European art often depicted Moors with features we would now associate with people of African descent. Dark skin, frizzy hair, full lips.
So visual representations reinforce this idea of the Moors' African heritage. Are there any specific artworks that stand out?
One intriguing piece is the Drake Jewel from the 16th century.
Okay.
It seems to depict a black king alongside a white woman.
Interesting.
The symbolism is open to interpretation, but it raises some interesting questions about race and power dynamics during that era.
That's fascinating. It makes you wonder about the stories behind these artistic choices
Yeah.
and what messages they might have been trying to convey.
Yeah.
But shifting gears a bit, let's talk about the Moors' legacy.
Yeah.
What kind of impact did they have on Europe?
This is where things get really interesting. The Moors ruled in Spain and Portugal for almost 700 years, from 711 AD to 1492 AD.
700 years. That's longer than some entire empires have existed. What were they doing during all that time? Were they just holding on to power, or was there more to it?
Oh, there's so much more to it. They weren't just rulers, they were builders, innovators, thinkers. The Moors made incredible strides in fields like mathematics, astronomy, architecture. Their impact on European cuisine, medicine, even agriculture was significant.
So they weren't just shaping the political landscape. They were transforming European society from the ground up. It sounds like they played a key role in pulling Europe out of the Dark Ages.
That's a great way to put it. Their contributions really helped lay the foundation for the Renaissance, and yet it's a period of history that's often overlooked or minimized.
That is surprising, considering their apparent impact. Why do you think that is?
Well, according to the article, there have been attempts by some Spanish rulers to downplay this period, almost like they're trying to airbrush it out of history.
That's interesting. I wonder why there would be a push to minimize their role. It seems counterintuitive considering the positive contributions they made.
It's definitely a complex issue, and it raises questions about how history is written and whose perspectives are prioritized.
Yeah.
Luckily, new archaeological discoveries are shedding more light on this period and challenging those narratives.
It's almost like we're rediscovering a lost civilization. But before we delve further into the Moors' legacy, let's talk a bit about the source itself, the African History website. What can you tell us about it?
It's an educational platform focused on sharing African history, including the stories of pre-colonial civilizations, empires, and rulers. They aim to promote tourism across the African continent, which is a really fantastic initiative.
And they're committed to accuracy, right? Making sure the information they present is factual and unbiased.
Yeah.
That's something we really value here at the Deep Dive.
Absolutely. They have a strong emphasis on fact-checking and avoiding biased or hateful information. It's all about presenting a balanced and nuanced perspective.
That aligns perfectly with our approach here. So for our listeners, the African History website is definitely worth checking out if you're interested in learning more about this fascinating period of history. But now I'm really curious to dive deeper into the Moors' specific contributions and how they transformed Europe.
Let's do it. We'll unpack some of their most impactful innovations and explore how they rippled through European society, leaving a legacy that's still felt today. It's fascinating to consider how the Moors' contributions, despite being so significant, are often overshadowed in mainstream historical narratives. It really makes you think about whose stories get told and how power dynamics shape our understanding of the past.
It's like there's this whole chapter of history that's been tucked away waiting to be rediscovered. But before we get too deep into that, I'm really curious about those attempts to downplay the Moors' influence. What could be the motivation behind that?
It's a complex question, and there's no single easy answer. But perhaps it stems from a desire to present a more homogeneous national narrative, one that prioritizes a certain vision of cultural identity.
So by minimizing the role of a non-European culture, they're essentially trying to streamline history to fit a particular narrative, almost like airbrushing a complex portrait to make it simpler.
It's an interesting analogy, and there's definitely a sense of that. But thankfully, we're seeing a pushback against these simplistic narratives. Archaeological discoveries, coupled with a growing awareness of the need for diverse perspectives, are helping to paint a more complete and accurate picture of the past.
Okay, so let's dive into some of those specific contributions. You mentioned that the Moors made advancements in a wide range of fields. Can you give us some concrete examples?
Absolutely. Let's start with architecture. The Moors were master builders, and their architectural style is still visible throughout Spain and Portugal. Think of the Alhambra in Granada, a stunning palace and fortress complex that showcases the intricate beauty and sophistication of Moorish design.
The Alhambra is definitely iconic. I've seen pictures, but I can only imagine how breathtaking it must be to experience it in person. What were some of the defining characteristics of their architectural style?
They were masters of geometry and light, creating spaces that were both awe-inspiring and functional. The use of intricate patterns, calligraphy, and vibrant colors created a sensory feast for the eyes. Water features like fountains and reflecting pools weren't just decorative. They played a vital role in cooling and creating a sense of tranquility.
So their architecture wasn't just about aesthetics. It was deeply intertwined with their cultural values and understanding of the natural world.
Exactly. It reflected their appreciation for beauty, their ingenuity, and their deep connection to their surroundings.
What about their contributions to mathematics and astronomy? Those fields seem pretty far removed from architecture, at least at first glance.
You might be surprised to learn that there are actually deep connections between them. The Moors' mastery of geometry evident in their architecture also underpinned their advancements in mathematics. For instance, they introduced the concept of zero to Europe.
Really?
A seemingly simple idea that revolutionized mathematical thinking. They also made significant strides in algebra and trigonometry, laying the groundwork for future scientific discoveries.
It's amazing how these seemingly disparate fields are actually interwoven. It makes you realize that knowledge doesn't exist in isolation. It builds upon itself across disciplines.
Precisely. And their advancements in astronomy were equally impressive. They built sophisticated observatories and made remarkably accurate observations of the stars, furthering our understanding of the cosmos.
It sounds like they were pushing the boundaries of knowledge in multiple directions.
Right.
But they weren't just focused on intellectual pursuits, right? You mentioned their impact on agriculture as well.
Right. The Moors weren't just scholars and astronomers, they were also practical innovators. They introduced new crops and farming techniques to Europe that had a profound impact on food production.
What kind of innovations are we talking about?
They introduced irrigation systems that allowed for more efficient use of water resources, and they brought new crops like citrus fruits, rice, and sugarcane, enriching European diets and transforming agricultural practices.
It's incredible to think about how much of what we consider European actually has roots in other cultures and civilization.
Right.
It challenges our assumptions about where knowledge originates and how it spreads.
It certainly does. The Moors' influence is a testament to the interconnectedness of human history and the importance of acknowledging those connections.
So we've touched on architecture, mathematics, astronomy, agriculture. It's clear that their influence was widespread. Were there any other areas where they left their mark?
Oh, absolutely. We can't forget their contributions to medicine and cuisine. The Moors brought with them advanced medical knowledge and practices, including surgical techniques and the use of herbal remedies. They also introduced new ingredients and flavors to European cuisine, enriching the culinary landscape with dishes that are still popular today.
Like what? Give us some examples.
Think of paella, a dish that originated in the Valencia region of Spain, or gazpacho, a cold soup made with raw blended vegetables. These dishes and many others reflect the Moorish influence on Spanish cuisine.
So even our taste buds are carrying on a legacy that's centuries old. It's fascinating to see how deeply embedded their influence is in European culture.
It truly is, and I think that's what makes this deep dive so compelling. It's not just about uncovering historical facts, it's about challenging our assumptions, recognizing the interconnectedness of cultures, and appreciating the richness and diversity of human history.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
But we've been so focused on the Moors' impact on Europe. I'm realizing that we haven't really explored their own civilization in depth. Where did they come from? What was their society like? What were their beliefs and values?
Those are excellent questions, and they lead us to the heart of the Moorish story, their origins, their social structures, their cultural practices. We've laid the groundwork by understanding their influence on Europe, but now it's time to delve into the heart of their own civilization. Ready to take that journey?
Absolutely. Let's unpack the world of the Moors beyond their interactions with Europe. I'm ready to see what treasures we uncover. All right, so we've explored the Moors' incredible impact on Europe, but now I'm really curious to understand their own civilization on its own terms. Where did they come from? What was their society like?
It's a fascinating journey, and it challenges the notion of the Moors as a single, unified entity. The reality is their origins are incredibly diverse.
So not a single point of origin, but a blending of different cultures and influences.
Exactly. We can trace their roots back to North Africa, the Iberian Peninsula, even parts of the Middle East. These diverse groups over time were united under the banner of Islam, which played a pivotal role in shaping their identity.
So more than just a shared ethnicity, it was a shared faith that brought them together.
Precisely. Islam provided a common framework for their laws, their social customs, their artistic expressions. It's fascinating to consider how this shared belief system originating in the Arabian Peninsula became the cornerstone of a civilization that flourished across such a vast geographical area.
It really highlights the power of ideas to transcend borders and bring people together. What was Moorish society like? Did this diverse mix of cultures create a tolerant and inclusive environment? Or were there tensions and conflicts?
Well, like any society, Moorish Spain wasn't a utopia. There were certainly periods of conflict and power struggles. But what's striking is the level of tolerance and intellectual curiosity that characterized much of their rule. Think of Cordoba, a city in Spain that became a renowned center of learning under Moorish rule. It attracted scholars from across Europe and the Middle East, fostering a vibrant exchange of ideas.
So a melting pot of cultures and knowledge. That seems to challenge the common narrative of a clash of civilizations.
It does, doesn't it? The reality is far more nuanced. Yes, there were periods of conflict, but there were also periods of remarkable collaboration and cross-cultural exchange. The Moors, for example, played a key role in preserving and translating ancient Greek and Roman texts, which had a profound impact on the later European Renaissance.
It's almost as if they acted as a bridge, connecting the knowledge of the ancient world with the burgeoning intellectual curiosity of Europe.
That's a great way to put it. Their emphasis on education and knowledge dissemination was truly remarkable. Libraries flourished, and new discoveries were made in various fields, from mathematics to astronomy to medicine. The spirit of inquiry and intellectual openness was a defining feature of Moorish society.
It's incredible to think about the long-lasting impact of that intellectual legacy. They weren't just conquerors, they were cultural catalysts, setting the stage for a new era of learning and discovery in Europe.
Exactly. And it all stems back to that diverse mix of cultures and influences that came together under the unifying force of Islam. It's a story that challenges simplistic narratives and reminds us that history is always more complex and interconnected than we might initially think.
I love that. It's a reminder to always dig deeper, to question assumptions, and to embrace the richness and diversity of human history. And speaking of digging deeper, I want to thank our listeners for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of the Moors. We've only scratched the surface, but hopefully we've sparked your curiosity to learn more.
Absolutely. And remember, history isn't just about dates and names. It's about understanding the forces that have shaped our world, the connections that bind us, and the enduring legacy of human ingenuity and cultural exchange.
Beautifully said. So until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.
JC Global, Embassy TV 1.